All right. I think we're live. Zoom is kind of setting up, but I think we actually are live right now. So many
Awesome.
technical difficulties. Just checking. All right. So. Just checking on my page. See if I see myself right now. Yes, we are. I'm watching myself on my phone. Perfect. All right. Hey, everyone. And hey, Rita, thank you so much for taking the time to join us live and share more about your story and inspire other travelers. So, just to start this whole thing off, how about you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
My name is Rita. I'm based out of the really small state of Vermont. I live up in the mountains, and about 7 years ago now, I was going through a divorce and randomly signed up to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Yeah, that's literally how it happened. I was driving down the street. I was making a phone call. Don't tell the cops. And I was on the phone with a company that does women's only trips, and found out there was one spot left and signed up to do it. From there, like everything else snowballed, and now I have my own travel blog, and I work for 2 different women's travel companies, and I just got my own column in a women's magazine. So a lot has happened because of this one pivotal moment in my life.
I almost feel like it was destiny just because also there was like one spot left. Like it almost feels like it was like your spot waiting for you.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how like everything kind of came into place in that specific moment in time. And every time I have like a bad day because travel blogging isn't always, and like it's not always like beautiful sunsets.
That always what Instagram shows you.
Yeah, it's not like that at all. It's tough, and sometimes like you're alone in a hostel and you don't feel good and everything is awful. But in those moments, or like you're writing this really great blog post and then no one reads it. Like it's just in those moments, I just think about like that moment changed literally the entire way that I live my life, which is amazing. So it was definitely meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. So backtracking a little bit, you climbed Kilimanjaro, but what was life like before the climb?
My marriage was really unhappy. And don't get me wrong, my ex-husband is a lovely human being. Like it wasn't an abusive situation in any way, shape, or form. It was just, I got married really young, thought it was like what I was supposed to do next. Because, you graduate college. What's the next step? Oh, you obviously get married. And I did.
That blueprint that's supposed to fit everyone.
Exactly. And I did genuinely love him. And I would not change our marriage for anything because it definitely taught me so much about life. But I was unhappy and it just wasn't working. I feel like we were constantly arguing, and I felt like I lost my sense of self because I felt that I was just his wife. And where we lived and the situation that we were in, like that's how a lot of people knew who I was. And I don't want to be connected to someone in that way. Like I want to be someone's partner, not someone's extension.
Yeah.
So that was really, really hard, and losing myself, was something that it took me a long time to like come to terms with. And I feel like doing this helped me find myself and my strength again.
I love that. And then, as you just said, divorce is a really difficult experience, though you were able to use it as something that propelled you forward toward a life of adventure. So I'm wondering, what advice would you give others looking to use travel as a way to heal from trauma?
The first thing I would have to say is that don't think it's going to solve everything, because it definitely doesn't. It's a great way to rediscover yourself and depend on yourself more than anything. I mean, when you climb Kilimanjaro, you're the only one that's going to get you up the mountain. I mean, you have a great team and great guides, and I was surrounded by amazing, amazing people that helped me make that happen. But my own feet got me there, and I think that's a really great metaphor of how like healing works. Like if you don't put the work in, you're not going to heal. So you need to concentrate on yourself, and just working through that however long it takes.
Yeah, I love that. And I always feel like when I'm traveling, like especially solo, it really helps me grow my relationship with myself in a way that, like, when I'm home, it's just, I don't know, I think when you're doing the same thing every day, you almost get it, you know, they say a rut, but even if it's not a rut, even if you enjoy it, it's just like you're doing the same thing over and over. So you're not really like getting out of your comfort zone, or like,
exactly.
Like you kind of need that to like retrain your thought, or just have your thoughts go somewhere else almost.
And beforehand, there was a lot of training too. So it was
like physical training, right?
Physical training. Yeah. I got a gym membership, which I had never done before, because I'm not a gym person. I'm an outdoorsy person. So I got a gym membership because it was November in Vermont. And hiking at that time of year is hard, and I don't ski or snowboard. So I went to one of the gyms at the local ski resort, and they have a pool. So by the time I left, I was swimming 30 laps. Like, I was in the best shape of my life. It was crazy. And I was running and I was rowing, and I went to spin class. That is not my thing. But I was determined to get up that mountain. So it changed my whole routine before I even left. Like, the challenge didn't happen once I landed in Tanzania. It happened 3-4 months beforehand when I started training.
So it was almost like a physical transformation and a mental and I guess spiritual transformation, like kind of like the all-encompassing transformational trip.
Yeah, everything changed. I mean, the physical, like, I was in the best shape of my life personally. I don't know. I don't jump on the scale. Like, I'm not that type of person. My body needs what she needs.
Yeah. So, when I go to the doctor, I'm like, don't even tell me, because I don't want to be wrapped up in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's not my jam. But I could never swim 30 laps in a pool. And then I could after all the training. And I mean, as far as like spiritually, it was crazy. Like you said, everything, it was supposed to happen. Like I got
like meant to be.
Yeah. I flew out of Boston because I was living, before I moved to Vermont, I was living in the Massachusetts area. So I flew out of Boston, and I had a layover in Amsterdam, and I met one of the women on my trip while I was in the airport, and her name's Laura. And Laura and I have since done 3 different trips together. And we ended up being tent mates and roommates because we went on safari afterwards. And when we got off the plane in Tanzania, we like ended up going in 2 different lines. For anyone that has ever been, they know when you get off the plane, especially that KLM Amsterdam flight, which is complete chaos. It's like the biggest flight they have into Kilimanjaro Airport.
Oh, wow.
Getting your visa is insane. There's just hundreds of people. Everyone's filling out forms. You're in lines, and there's no rhyme or reason as to what's going on. You just have to be patient.
It's not like an orderly line. It's sort of just like energy all around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you first get there, you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But, you know, it ends up working itself out. Laura and I ended up going in different directions, and she met the co-founder of one of the companies that I work for now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's how you met this person?
What?
And that's how you met the person that you now work for?
Yeah, I didn't actually meet her in Tanzania. Laura met her like in line, because they were doing a climb a few days after we did, because they were summiting for International Women's Day, because we do that every year. And met her, learned all about the company, and the following year, Laura and I signed up to do a trip with them. I'm all about like female empowerment, women helping women. I've been a Girl Scout for my whole life, so like I love the female-only environment. And ended up going on that trip, and then they liked me, so they hired me. So like, it literally, like, everything on this trip was so serendipitous, crazy to where I am today. And yeah, Laura and I have done Kilimanjaro. We've done the Salcantay Tay trek to Machu Picchu, and we did Everest Base Camp last year together.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, Olivia, who I love, hey Olivia, she wrote, how inspiring the before trip prep is essential. Do you feel like for Kilimanjaro, like pretty much everyone should be doing a really kind of intense physical routine beforehand?
Yes, I do. So for Kilimanjaro, since Kilimanjaro, I've done a lot of like high altitude stuff. I did Kilimanjaro for the second time in March with the Kirby Kili crew, which is a plus size women only climb. I ended up on it because of positive vibes and like knowing my friend who's plus size. And
you led that one, right?
I did. Yeah. It was like a changing point in my life. I feel like I learned so much about the body positive movement that I just didn't know existed before.
Yeah.
And those women are, look them up later, people. Curvy Killy Crew. They are spectacular and completely inspiring. And if you're not inspired, I don't know how to help you. because they're just that amazing. The group of women was just spectacular. Oh. Totally lost my train of thought on that rant.
On the prep, beforehand prep.
Oh yeah. So with altitude climbs, the altitude doesn't care who you are, where you're from, what your body looks like, whether you are a couch potato or you run marathons. Because altitude, you can train and altitude can hit you. Yeah. Because I threw up every day on the mountain except for summit day. Yeah, I felt awful the first time I did Kilimanjaro. And yeah, awful. Like I got up that mountain on willpower and not much else. So training is definitely essential because you really want to do a lot of cardio. But I think it's also about, I'm actually writing a blog post about this right now about training for Kilimanjaro. Oh, and it's all about like diversification as well. So you don't just want to run. You want to work as much of your body as possible, but you really want to work on the cardio because your heart is what's helping the oxygen get to the rest of your body while you're on the mountain. So definitely don't overlook that. That's really, really important. But again, you might get there and be 2, 3, 4 days in and your guide, because you have to have a guide. It stimulates the entire economy around the mountain. You might be told that you need to leave the mountain for your own personal safety. Yeah. Because altitude can kill you.
Yeah. Well, that's good that they'll tell you that too.
Yeah.
So aside I know we talked a lot about the physical preparation. Was there any kind of like mental preparation you had to do, since this isn't like obviously like sightseeing around a city?
Yes. And I know myself and I know what gets me through difficult situations, and it's just positive reinforcement. So I had friends and family write me letters that they sealed or I sealed, and I brought them with me and I opened a few of them every day as I was climbing the mountain. So like some evenings or mornings in my tent, there was like sobbing because it was like happy tears that like people believe that I could do this. So it definitely, the mental game is really what gets you up the mountain, because your body is going to tell you that you can't do it. And being able to just power through and like hit that wall and keep going past it is the key to really any mountain, I think.
That's such a clever thing too, to like with the letters. I almost feel like you should write about that, like as something, I don't know, people could do to like, you know, I feel like a lot of people, even if they're not doing a big trek, even sometimes it's their first solo trip or something, they're terrified. And I think
it's scary. Like doing something for the first time, regardless of what it is, can be really scary. And just having like the people in your life encourage you when they're not there. I mean, it was a huge thing. I was a full-time nanny at the time, and my kids, they were little. I mean, now they're like 10, 11, and 12. But at the time, they were like 5, 6, and 7. And so they drew me pictures. Oh, I still have them. They were like the sweetest little pictures. One of them was like a little mountain with a stick figure with an arrow pointing to it. And it said, Retha climbing the mountain. And it was the sweetest thing I've ever received in my life. It was a stick figure drawing. Oh no, you froze. What happened?
Cute. Oh, I'm still here. Oh, there, you froze.
There you are. We both froze. We're fine. Everything's good.
We're back.
Everything's good.
But yeah, like for my fiance, he'll get me like, you know, gifts, but it's really like the notes and the pictures even that like mean more than anything, I think. Just, yeah.
Yeah, my boyfriend sent in his little letter, he sent me African animal stickers. Oh. So cute. And then the poles, I stuck them, myself and Laura, who was my tent mate at the time, stuck them on our hiking poles. And Laura still has those hiking poles too. So like she has African animal stickers on her hiking poles. I ended up getting new ones because mine broke. But yeah, they were on there for like 2-3 years.
Oh, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
So we talked about the physical and mental preparation. Is there any other advice you would give other travelers who might want to climb Kilimanjaro? Maybe even about booking. Like, was there
the booking, that's actually what I was going to say. So in Tanzania, there are lots of outfitters. And when you're booking an outfitter, make sure that your outfitter works with KPAP, the Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project. Oh gosh, if I got that wrong, I'm such an idiot. I'm going to hear about it from my friends later too.
Like a porter's rights thing.
KPAP, KPAP, sorry. And what they do is they set a standard for how much weight a porter can carry up the mountain. Because porters have died carrying things up the mountain. You don't carry your stuff when you go. You carry like a day pack with all of your layers and your water and sometimes your lunch, depending on your outfitter. And then they carry everything else. Like you roll up with a huge crew. When I did Kili in March for we had a film crew too, because they're making a documentary about the climb that the ladies did. It's going to be super cool. I cannot wait till it comes out. I have no idea when that's happening yet, but
they're doing the documentary on the curvy Kili crew.
Yeah, they came. We had 3 female, 2 camera women, and then a documentarian who actually was on she's part of the WOA family too, and she was on my first WOA adventure in Peru. So it was
really quick. Say what WOA is too.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, WOA stands for Women High on Adventure. It's one of the women's travel companies I work for, and we are all about women supporting women. We do kick-ass things with kick-ass women around the world.
I love it.
So Kilimanjaro is kind of our baby because our 2 co-founders, Allison and Danielle, met while climbing Kilimanjaro. And we do International Women's Day climb every year of Kili. And this past year we did 2 because we had our regularly scheduled climb and we had our plus size climb, and we went up different sides of the mountains. It was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
Oh man, I get lost.
Oh, about the booking. So they have to be affiliated with
KPAP is really, really important, and they make sure that everyone's getting fed and not carrying as much, and it's all about porter and crew safety, really. So if you're booking with someone that isn't with KPAP, you're really not supporting the local people or sustainable travel. It's not okay to go and climb Kilimanjaro and be like, oh, I don't want to pay a lot of money, I'm just going to go with a really cheap company. It's not good for the local people at all there, and it's really not good for you because their safety standards probably aren't as high as they should be.
Oh
yeah.
That's such a good
tip. Make sure you ask a lot of questions for what you personally need as a hiker when you go, because knowing what your comfort level is and what you personally need is really important. So a lot of self-awareness, I think, is really good too. And I would say try not to go with a really huge company. The smaller companies, I feel like, have a lot of heart and soul.
Yeah.
The local outfitter that we work with in Kili in Tanzania is absolutely amazing, and there's tons of singing and dancing, and we just get to know our crew so well because of it, because they're our trail family for the entire week. So looking for a company that has like a heart and soul, and they're like really at like one with the mountain, your experience is going to be so amazing. And you're going to pay a little bit of money for that. Most places will be $2,500 to $3,500, depending on what you personally want and how many people need to come with you.
And $2,500 is you could get an outfitter that's associated with KPAP and pay the $2,500.
Yeah, most of the time you can. Just again, ask for KPAP. Yeah. Go on their website, do some research. Actually, the KPAP website has a whole list of outfitters that are associated with them.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I did the Inca Trail, like we got to know the porters, and we would like, a lot of them played instruments, like you were saying, singing, dancing. One night it was someone's birthday, like one of the porters, and we made like a giant cake. Well, I did not make it. The chef did, but we all like sang and it was like a little party. And I felt like that was such like a big part of it. Like you were saying, like a little family for the week. It was like, I can't imagine. I mean, if if you're working with a company or going with a company that's not trying to support the porters, I would imagine that it's less like a cohesive group. And
yeah. Oh, you froze again. I think we both froze again.
more, I don't know. I've never, oh, I see you.
I see
Can
you.
you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Glitch.
Yeah. Oh, tech. So let's go to now after the climb. How did this whole climbing experience change you?
Well, I talked earlier about how it like literally changed my life as far as like meeting certain people, and just creating my entire adventure lifestyle by accident.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, like I said, I had a really terrible hike with the exception of summit night. Some miracle happened and I felt great on summit night. And I made it all the way to Huru Peak, which is the summit of the mountain. And I didn't know I was that strong. To be completely honest, I thought I was gonna make it, but once I wasn't feeling well, I really wasn't sure. And I did the Machame route, which is a pretty standard route that most people go up the mountain. And on, I think it's day 5, you hit Barranco Camp, and I didn't feel good at all that day. And I walked into the camp and I just cried.
Oh.
And because I sat down, and my tent mate came up to me, and I remember sitting on a rock crying, saying, I don't think I can do this. And we just kind of sat there, and then I tried to take a nap. At altitude, sleeping for me is challenging sometimes. So
Yeah,
not only I didn't feel good, I didn't want to eat anything, so I was forcing myself to eat, and I had a hard time sleeping. So there was a lot going on. And I don't know what happened that day, but I woke up the next morning, and we did play a really great game of Yahtzee. I've never got as many Yahtzees in my life. Yahtzee is the best trail game. I got 3 Yahtzees in one game. Don't know how that happened. Don't know how it happened. But the next morning I woke up and I felt better. I don't want to say great, but I felt better. And I think that moment of being like, yeah, I feel terrible, but things are going to be okay.
Like, things are better.
Yeah, things are getting better. I mean, they can't get much worse. And if they get worse, I just turn around.
Yeah.
And so just realizing that how far I can push myself, really.
Yeah.
Which is a lot further than I ever thought it was. Because when I got home and I told everybody that I literally threw up every day, everybody was kind of shocked that I
like, and you still made it to the top.
Yeah, oh, exactly, right. And then there was on summit night, and I have a blog post on my blog all about this, my first climb, and I felt terrible for every day except for summit night. And I woke up, and you wake up at like 11:30 and you summit in the dark. Mm-hmm. So you start climbing in the dark, which is genius because you don't see how far you have to go because it's really far. You don't realize it until you get back to the base camp. And I was in the line hiking, and there was a woman in front of me that the day before, she wasn't the nicest. She didn't have good vibes. The day before, I was sitting on a rock vomiting, and she was doing one-handed push-ups next to me.
Oh.
Okay. So she also is a marathon runner. So we're in line, and we're like in a single file line going up this like switchback snaky area. And all I remember is being pitch black and then looking up and seeing everyone's headlamps. Mm-hmm. Like literally, it was like a giant light up snake going up the mountain. And she's in front of me in line, and she stops and she throws up and she turns around. It was the first time she felt, and I don't know how she felt. I didn't ask her, but it was the first time that she had felt sick the whole trip. And she turned around. And from that moment, I was like, I am not turning around.
You turned around and just didn't continue?
No. Within like an hour into summit night, she felt great the whole way up, except for on summit night, she threw up once, turned around. And do you. Like, I'm not trying to shame this woman in any way. Like, you know your body better than everyone. But because of the experience that I had the day before with her doing one-handed push-ups next to me while I was throwing up, I was like, I am not turning around. I am making the summit of this mountain.
And you already made it so far, and you were already sick.
Yeah, and I was sick every single day. And I was like, you know what? At this point, we're just going for this.
Yeah.
And when literally the moment she turned around, I knew I was going to summit.
Yeah.
There was something in me that just knew I was going to make it to the top of the mountain. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
I love that idea too, of just like realizing how strong you are. Cause I feel like that all the time too. Like we were saying, it doesn't even need to be something crazy adventurous, but just like doing things that you never expected you would do. People are just so much more capable of things than they realize very often, I would say.
They are. And it's all about like what you want to do. I feel a lot of people say, oh, I could never do what you do. Why?
Yeah. If you have that drive and desire, then you can.
Yeah. It's not that you can't do what I do. It's just you don't want to. And there's nothing wrong with not wanting to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Like, I know lots of people that are like, no, that's just not for me.
Oh,
but don't tell me that you can't do it because you've never tried.
Exactly. Yeah,
there's a man. There's a guy actually that has no legs that climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Like,
oh my gosh. Do you know his name offhand by chance?
I don't know his name. I saw a documentary about him a couple years back. But yeah, no legs, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh
like, what's your excuse?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And
go on.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I recently saw a documentary of a guy who was like really into rock climbing, and then I forget what happened, but he lost a finger, and he still he was so determined, he still did it. Like, he was like one of the top 3 rock climbers in the world still, even though he lost a finger during a rock climbing expedition. Like, to me, it's like, I mean, I would never even want to do that to begin with. Then when I lose a finger, I would definitely not want to do it. Yeah, the drive. This was like his passion. It's like, if you have that can propel you forward.
Exactly. No one wants to live their life the same as everybody else, right? Exactly. Your life is different than mine and everybody else. I mean, when you look at like travel bloggers, I feel like a lot of people look at us and they're like, oh my gosh, they're so adventurous. But we all are completely different people. We do completely different things. And what I want to do on a trip is not the same as what you want to do on a trip. And realizing that it's okay that you don't want to climb a mountain, but you might want to, I don't know, what's something that I don't want to do? Ski. Don't want to ski. Not my thing. But a lot of people love it. And that's just, everybody's a little bit different. What their limits are completely different.
Yeah. My fiance is obsessed with snowboarding, and we go on these snowboarding trips as friends. I'm like, I really don't have a desire to wake up super early, put on 1,000 pieces of clothing, stand in a line. Like, to me, it's just like, so I'd rather go hiking and just like go.
Whereas, well, if you want to come up and bring him to Vermont, and he can totally go snowboarding, and we'll like go dog sledding or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We'll go like snowshoeing and drink hot chocolate in the lodge. I don't know. I'm near like 4 ski resorts.
I would definitely be down for that. I love snowshoeing. I've done that a lot. Like, I love.
Oh, I love it.
I love hanging out in the hot tub and drinking like wine.
Yeah.
But all those things.
The ski lift? No, thank you. I'll pass. No. But like, you know what? You go and have a great time.
So what is your strategy for choosing the perfect adventure to suit your needs? And maybe your needs are like different at different times.
I like going out of my comfort zone.
So if you see something that you're like, this terrifies me, or like, oh, I've never done this, that's like, okay,
yes,
this.
Yes. Yeah. I want to do it. After, was it April of this year, I went down to Cozumel and I met up with my friend Claire, and I got my my PADI open water certification to scuba dive.
Congrats.
Thanks. It was terrifying at first. Because you go, and I hadn't done like a class beforehand. So in 3 days I did everything. So I read my book, and the first time that I ever got in the water was when I got there.
So most people will do like how many classes beforehand, or most people doing this for a few weeks before they do the open water certification?
Well, some people will do like a class, like so like every week they'll go to like a pool and they'll try something different.
Oh, I have heard of that. So you were just straight into like the ocean, or like
Straight into the ocean. And like the first day, like we walked in, like they didn't like take me in a boat and like just throw me overboard. No, the company that I went with was absolutely spectacular, and I happened to be the only one, so I got a one-on-one like first day with a guy that was like, he reminded me of my dad, so I was like super comfortable. He was like the sweetest, and we're in the water and you have to take your mask off underwater.
Oh yeah, I did a scuba diving class once, and I remember that was so hard. It was not
awful.
Get that.
And I was like 6 feet under, and I took it off and I freaked out and I rocketed to the surface. He's like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Well, obviously I can't do that, but I'm having a really hard time with this." And it took me like 5 or 6 different tries to even do it, but I was still not comfortable with it, because you have to like you have to cap it on, you take it off, you wait, and he like would tap my shoulder. I mean, I could kind of see, and then I have to put it back on and like clear the water from it. That was probably one of the most terrifying things that I've ever done.
Yeah,
because you still have your air. You're not out of air, but like the fact that you can't really see anything around you very well is really scary.
And I think it's weird to not breathe, because I did do scuba diving once in the Great Barrier Reef, but they didn't make you do a class. And I felt like just the act of like, I can't breathe through my nose. I have to breathe through my nose. Like it was so weird to be like, I want to breathe out of my nose.
Yeah. And you have to get used to it. I mean, I was there for a whole week, and I ended up doing like a ton of dives with them, and it was absolutely spectacular. And now I want to plan all the trips so I can go scuba diving.
Yeah. Did you leave?
Because it was so much fun.
Like this is like now you think it's really fun. That's awesome.
Well, I feel like I can explore more of the world now.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much of the world was closed off and how extremely peaceful it actually is. And like growing up, like I grew up near the ocean, so I'm not afraid of the ocean, but like water things, like we didn't do a ton. So
yeah,
just I feel like I can explore everything now. So now I'm like, oh, well, I can go here and scuba dive. I can go here and scuba dive too. So for that, it was literally about getting outside of my comfort zone. And I left that first day completely discouraged. Like, am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
And I ended up being fine and loved everything about it. I mean, the first dive I did, it was at like 30 feet, and it was just myself and my instructor. And we saw a nurse shark, a giant eel, and a sea turtle within 20 minutes of each other. And I was like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
We didn't see any other sharks the entire week, but that first one, that was the first thing I saw underwater. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this all the time now.
It's like another sign from the universe, like just like, okay, she needs a little like inspiration right now.
Yeah. Just show her cool stuff so she knows she's going to be okay. And this is awesome. So, yeah, I love just diving out of my comfort zone and seeing what happens. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And that's a great way to also just like, see more, experience more, and also like grow personally when you're constantly doing things that scare you, even small things, like it doesn't have to be scuba diving, but just like things that are uncomfortable, I feel like is the best way to grow as a person.
Oh yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow for like a month and a half, and one of the places I'm going on the trip is Japan. I am terrified about the food.
Oh really?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I don't like sushi. It's not my thing. I've tried all the sushi. Sure. And I just know the food is so different there, and like I'm not freaking out about it, but I'm a little uncomfortable.
Good. You'll be able to, I mean, it depends where you are. Like in Tokyo, you'll totally be able to find like burgers and stuff too. But maybe if you're in like smaller villages and towns.
Oh, I'm going to push myself to eat everything. That doesn't mean I'm comfortable with it at all.
Oh, I thought the food there was just, I mean, granted, I love Japanese food. It's one of my favorites. So like different, but I thought the food was so, so good.
Well, that's good. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. It might be awesome. It might be a total disaster. You'll have to tune into my Instagram stories to see what happens.
Oh yeah, no, I will. Japan's one of my favorites. So like, I mean, just Where are you going in Japan?
Starting in Tokyo. I'm unapologetically going to Tokyo Disney because I'm a dork.
I love it.
I love Disney and I will not apologize for it. People give me crap for it all the time online. Don't
Really?
care. I love it.
I have adult rides though. I went to Disney. I mean, I've been to Disney in the US, but I went to Disney, I think it was Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong is this is years ago. I went by myself. I just was like, oh, I like rides.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. So I'm doing that. Just kind of wander around Tokyo for a couple of days. I'm hiking Mount Fuji.
Oh, nice.
Which is going to be, it's on my 40 before 40 list. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm doing a trip with Woe. So it's our very first trip to Japan. So we call them expeditions the first time we go somewhere. And we're doing the Kimono Kodo pilgrimage.
Yeah, I had somebody do a guest post about that on my site. It's looked amazing.
I'm really, really excited. We're in Nara for, I think, a day. And we're in a bunch of really just small villages where we're going to be hiking, which should be really exciting. And then we end in Kyoto.
Oh, Kyoto is one of my favorite cities for, well, just for culture, but also like food. I really like the food there.
I'm really excited. First time in Japan, and I'm just going in with it with a completely open mind and know that I'm going to have a huge culture shock and then it's going to be great.
Yeah. I love that. An open mind.
I love a good culture shock.
I think an open mind is one of the most important things you can like pack.
Definitely. Definitely.
Oh, Kate Holmes says, hey, you amazing ladies. Hey, Kate.
Hey, Kate.
I'm talking to my phone, even though like this is recording. So we talked about like summiting Kilimanjaro, getting your scuba diving license. Have there been any other experiences that have had a particularly transformative effect on you?
I know this is one of the questions from the post that's going to go up, but I'm not going to lie, I totally forget what I wrote. But I'm going to talk about going to Peru. So I've been to Peru 3 times, and I go and I lead the Woe trip there. But there's a woman in Peru that she runs all of our trips for us. Her name is Elizabeth, and she is one of the most amazing people that I've ever met while traveling. She grew up in a really small village outside of Cusco. Her dad was on the excavation team for Machu Picchu. Like, no big deal. She used to play at Machu Picchu as a kid. Like, oh my gosh, crazy. She owns her own trekking company. And yeah,
seems like that would make sense for someone who had played in Machu Picchu as a kid.
Yeah, she is, and she owns it. Like, it's her company, and a lot of her guides are women. She's sending, which is awesome. She's sending a bunch of them to school. She has her whole team is just absolutely spectacular. So doing a trek with them is super, super special because it's the same group of people that you see each time you go. Well, I mean, when I go, because I go all the time. And she's sending her cooks to culinary school. When I was there in 2018, she had an apartment in Cusco. Now she has her own house, like up in the mountainside of Cusco, like overlooking the city. And she's building a library in her village where she grew up for the kids that live there.
And what's the company called?
Mountain Gods Peru.
Mountain Gods Peru. Wow.
Yeah. They're small, but they go everywhere. And she is just spectacular. You meet her and she has this light about her that just can't be matched. She and I have like an instant connection. I feel like we have like a sisterhood. And when we do a trek together, our friendship is one of the things that makes that trek special because we're always joking and laughing, and she's teaching me Spanish and I'm awful at learning languages. Like, I'm dyslexic. So like that's a problem. So like reading things, it just doesn't work. Yeah. It's a huge challenge. So whenever I go, I like work on my Spanish more and more and more. And
so for you, it's probably easier, or maybe I'm wrong, but easier to learn through speaking with people.
Yeah. Being surrounded by the language. Yeah. Like when I left Peru in May, I went to LA to meet up with a friend, and like we're in a restaurant and I asked for the check in Spanish and the guy's like, what? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a check, please?
He's like, I'm just gonna say this in English.
Just sorry, like, yeah, like, but like it just came out because, you know, in Peru you have to ask for the check. They don't just bring it to you.
Yeah.
So like there are certain phrases that I just kept saying that I would use all the time there. And so just being surrounded by a language helps me learn a lot better. So I'm like picking things up. We'll see how it goes. I feel like in like 5 years I'll have a pretty good grasp on Spanish.
I actually just hired a videographer and he speaks a little English, mainly Spanish. So I was with him the last 2 days and we were like, he's practicing his English with me. I'm speaking Spanish. I did the same thing as you. I then took a cab to meet my fiance out for dinner, and I just started speaking Spanish to the cab driver. He's like, "What?" I'm like, sorry.
I'm glad it's not just me then. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does something like that.
I think when you're doing it for even like a few hours, you're just like in the habit, and then you're like, "Oh wait, I have to kind of switch my brain back."
Yeah, exactly.
So after your divorce, were there any negative thoughts that you didn't believe would ever go away but did? Maybe from, you know, the whole trekking Kilimanjaro, and, you know, how did that transformation occur?
Yeah. When I was on the phone with my ex-husband when we were going through our divorce, and I was the one that chose to leave. It was my decision. And some people will say, like, oh, the person that does the leaving, it's so easy for them. Yeah, okay. They clearly have never done the leaving because it sucks just as much.
Yeah.
And because you're literally reworking your entire life. And I was on the phone with him one time and he said, no one is going to love you as much as I do.
Gosh.
That's
heavy.
That is, that's probably the heaviest thing that anyone's ever said to me. And that stuck with me for like years. And for a really long time, I carried that with me, which was really hard. I don't really know what has helped me let go of that. I mean, I'm in a relationship now, and I've been in it for quite some time now. And he's like super supportive of me. And like in December, when I said, hey, what do you think about me quitting my job and being a full-time travel writer and like adventure guide? And he goes, well, you can't tame a wild thing.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh man, this is it. This is my match right here. And I mean, I let go of that thought like years and years ago. But just knowing that I have somebody that really gets me now, and like, yeah, he's moping a little bit right now because I'm leaving for a month and a half.
Yeah.
And I am too. Like that, it really does suck not to see your significant other for that long.
Yeah.
But he gets that I'm doing what I love. And that means like so much in a relationship.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
that,
and like, it's like the other person, because like with Andy, I've sort of like if I go away for a month, then I'll stay home for a bit longer. Like I try to like balance.
It's a balance, yeah.
Yeah, and we both it's the same. It's like he supports me, but he'll get a little sad sometimes, and it's like I feel the same way. I can't fault, you can't fault someone for feeling the way they do, and it would kind of suck if they didn't miss you.
Yeah, exactly. And I do the same thing. Like I've been home. I was gone for 2 weeks. I worked at a Girl Scout camp this summer, leading like a backpacking program, and I was gone for 2 weeks. And I got back at the end of July, and I've been home since. So it's been like 4 weeks, and now I'm gone, and then I'll be home until actually I think we're going on a vacation, like an actual vacation.
That's the best.
Yeah, and then I don't go anywhere for work until like December. I'm leading a trip to Cuba, so it's all about having that balance and
Agreed.
and not letting like those thoughts kind of seep back in, really.
Yeah. And I think too, like you were saying, you're doing all these things that like show you how strong you are. And I think too that probably, and like correct me if I'm wrong, but can show you too like your own strength and support of yourself in a way.
Oh yeah.
Does that makes sense?
Definitely. I feel like the more that I don't know, the more that I travel, the more I learn about the world. And I think through learning about the world, I'm learning about myself, like what I actually need. I say to the kids I'm nannying for all the time when they're like, oh, I need that. I'm like, do you want it or do you need it? Because want and need are two different things.
Yeah.
And maybe you feel this way too. So when you go away and you, especially when you're in a culture that is completely different from the one that you come from, you come back and I have a hard time like readjusting, and not because I've been away so much, it's because I've learned so many different things. And I'm just like, why do you do that? Oh my God, you're so wasteful. Oh my gosh, you don't even need to do that thing that you're doing right now. Like, why are you complaining? Like, oh no, your house, I don't know, a window broke. Well, you have windows.
Yeah.
Like, just, I feel like traveling has given me this completely different perspective of the way that I should lead my life with less stuff.
Oh,
and being much more grateful for the things that I do have.
Yeah.
And it's hard being around people that don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like every time I go away, I come back with like, you know, even traveling has changed my mind about things that I thought for so many years, or just like shifts of mindset, ways of doing things, just learning new ways of doing things, or learning different beliefs that maybe I'm like, oh, that kind of resonates with me. Is really powerful.
Definitely.
So what was one thing that scared you before your Mount Kilimanjaro trip, and how did you overcome it?
Something that scared me.
I feel like we've mentioned so many things already, like
most of the things that I've already mentioned.
Yeah. You had said about like the altitude was one thing.
Oh yeah. The altitude scared me because you just don't know.
Yeah. And there's nothing really you can do.
You really can't. You can train and you can do the best that you can, but we were sat down, and you get when you climb, you get a briefing. So like the day before you leave, you sit down and you they give you like a day by day, this is where you're gonna stop, this is where you're gonna end, and like you can ask as many questions as you want. And but my first climb, I didn't do it with Whoa. So it was a different company, and this the guy that owned the company was the one that gave the briefing, and he said some days you just can't do the altitude.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. He's like, I don't know how many times, and sometimes I'm great, and sometimes I'm awful, and you just don't know what's gonna happen. So like the unknown of that is scary.
Yeah. And go on, actually.
Last year, I did Everest Base Camp, and knowing the reaction that I had to altitude on Kilimanjaro, I ran a half marathon to train. And I will say it definitely helped, because I didn't feel as terrible. I still didn't want to eat, so that was a good time. But it definitely helped. So maybe I'll do it again. I'm going back to base camp in March.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, April again of next year, because I'll be there during my birthday.
Great way to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, it was my birthday present to myself a few years ago, so why not do it again? And yeah, I mean, it definitely helped. But still, I mean, you go up and the altitude is scary. On our way down, we ran into a woman, and our crew helped her get to a helicopter, because they had to heli fly her out. She was like,
that was my question. So if you do get super sick, I'm assuming you need to be helicoptered out, right?
Yeah, I have a membership to Global Rescue, which is like you can call them anywhere and they'll come get you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so like a medical emergency, natural disaster, civil unrest, and they'll their job is to evac you. So yeah, and Kilimanjaro and EBC, they'll come and get you in both instances. So yeah, but this woman, we actually ran into the helicopter pilot, at our like celebration dinner. He came to hang out with us, and he said that the woman died on the way to the airport,
Oh
the
my
way to the
gosh.
hospital, and they revived her,
Oh my
and that
gosh,
she
my
was
gosh.
on life support in Kathmandu, and they weren't sure like if she had brain damage. Like when I say that altitude like is really dangerous, it's super dangerous. And if you don't descend and get out of the area, if you're having a hard time, like you really can die.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so terrifying.
Yeah. That is absolutely terrifying. Do you have any because I just hiked in the Himalayas, and they like my guide brought a lot of stuff, but like do you use like any of the like smelling salts or any like types of like altitude?
Oh, I personally take Diamox. It's altitude sickness medication. And I personally think it helps because I haven't had any complications. Like I've definitely thrown up, but that's like a normal thing. And like not eating is normal, having a light headache. But like if you start to cough and it's like frothy, like you need to leave the mountain. Like
That's
if you have
the
a
sign kind of
if you have a terrible headache, you need to leave the mountain.
yeah.
And like a headache that just doesn't, a pounding headache that doesn't go away. And it can happen really fast. The last village before you get to Everest Base Camp is called Gorp Shep. And we were there and we had come back from base camp, and we're hanging out, we're celebrating. I may have been crying. Happy and uncomfortable tears. And we saw this guy, and he's a huge guy. He had to have been like 6'5", and he's fine. He's hanging out. You can't miss someone that's that big, right?
Yeah.
And the next morning, he is being like walked out to a helicopter with people.
Oh,
like it happens so fast. You just don't know. So I mean, when you start to feel signs, it's the time to go. So just being aware of your body. Did you have a hard time with the altitude when you were in Nepal?
Yeah, I mean, I got sick. I think I had food poisoning, though. I was throwing up before even hiked, and then I definitely was like puking a lot. Got better. Only one night I had like a headache, and then I put Tiger Balm on, and I was, I didn't.
Oh yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah, it was like I still felt the like, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt. I just felt like doing that.
The throbbing.
But I wasn't as high up as like Kilimanjaro or anything. But yeah, it was a little uncomfortable. Like Inca Trail, I had no problem. But yeah, I've been in places where other people, like I've done treks where other people don't feel well or need oxygen, and I feel totally fine. And then on this trek, everyone else felt fine. I was not feeling well. So like you're saying,
yeah, it just goes to show you just don't know.
Yeah.
But staying hydrated is like the biggest thing that you can do when you're at altitude too. I mean, when on Kilimanjaro and to Everest Base Camp, I was drinking like 3-4 liters of water a day.
Yeah.
Which seems like a ton of water, but like your body just needs it at that altitude, and it really, really helps. And people are like, "Oh, I drank a lot." I was like, "How much? A liter? That's not a lot. You need to drink more water."
No, I drink so much water as it is. Like even just like sitting in my apartment. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I'm always, and if I don't have like excess water, like people in Nepal were carrying like 2 liters, like you said, I would have at least 4, because I'm like, what if I don't feel well and then I'm without it and then I have to hike? Like I would rather just be uncomfortable weight wise in my bag. Like I'd rather carry the extra weight and just know that I have the water if I need it.
Mm-hmm. When I just said that I was in California at Girl Scout camp, and we took the girls on the Skyline to Sea Trail, and on our second to last day that we were supposed to be in the trail, we showed up at camp, and there's signs everywhere that there's no potable water. Yeah. So, and we had like water filters because we were in the middle of nowhere.
Did each girl though have like a, filter?
Yeah, we all had water bottles. We all we had like 8 or 9 like there's Sawyer water filters. I personally use one all the time whenever I travel, and there was no potable water. And then I didn't feel good that day, so that was super fun for me. And then I was like, okay, everybody, like, bring the water you have, bring the map. Where can we find water? Because we weren't getting picked up till the next day.
Yeah.
So my co-counselor went out and she like did a little recon as to like on the map where there was water. Nothing. So we had to like sit. Yeah. So we had to sit down with the girls and we're like, this is how valuable water is. What are we going to do? And they were high school girls. So it's like, and Girl Scouts is all about like girl led, like making girls make decisions. And we were having a conversation and this is how much water we have. We're having soup for dinner. So we need water for soup and we need water for the 3.5 hour trek that we're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So what do we do? And we ended up like discussion, but then leaving that day and like, we were able to get cell phone service like halfway down the trail, which was great. And we called and they picked us up. But we had to make that decision to leave. It just goes to show you that like collectively in the Western world, I feel for the most part, we take water for granted.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was like, I personally had been through that before, but it was a really big learning experience for the girls, but like how precious water can be. And I think when you're at altitude, it's the same thing. Like, you don't really know how precious it is until you really like aren't feeling well and you're like, oh, you need to drink more water.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just for one final question, since you're so well traveled, I know you're going to all these amazing places, doing all these crazy things. What is your personal favorite travel hack?
Oh, I always bring a water filter.
I love that one.
I really do. I hate buying plastic water bottles. Like, it's a really big pet peeve of mine. And I always bring, the water filter itself is about this big and it comes with a little bag.
What's the
Every
one?
once in a while, like,
What's the brand of the one?
Sawyer products. I worked with them like a while back, but I used them before I worked with them. And I genuinely do love the product. It's super small and some water filters have like a weird screw top, so you can only use their container, which I hate.
Yeah.
With the Sawyer, you can screw it on top of anything. Like, my boyfriend brings this, it happened to be on my counter, this Gatorade bottle with him, and it screws right on the top.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what's great is that it comes with a little pouch that like rolls up and it gets really small. But if it breaks, and especially if you're hiking, like you can get into town and you can attach it to like a soda bottle or like a water bottle that you can buy,
wow.
which is the best. And they're really light and they don't take up any space. So like I always have it in my carry-on because even in the airport, I'll just filter the water right from the tap.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think too, like even for people, well, obviously not buying plastic bottles is good for the environment. It's like a very great choice. But even for people who are like, oh, I don't know, it's like, it's good to just have that on you in case like something
you just
happens.
Don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And they last a really long time.
Yeah.
I don't know how I get a new one every like 4 months just because I'm using it all the time. But I don't remember how many liters you can filter with it, but it's perfect. It's like super, super tiny.
Do you buy like a whole new thing or do you just buy a new filter for the kind of?
You have to buy the whole thing, which is the thing, which is what I don't like. But because of that, I have like extra bags. So like before I left actually on my way to California, when I was doing the hiking trip, my bag popped because I had it forever. So, but when I got home and I did a hiking trip like on the Appalachian Trail in Vermont a few weeks ago for like 4 days, and I just grabbed a new one and screwed it on. It was perfect. So.
Oh, I love that. I have to check that out. I use LifeStraw and they're
really good too.
But it is, it's like you were saying, it doesn't go on everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do like it. And I have a Steri pen. I've always been, you probably, if you've used it, you're going to think I'm crazy. It always has scared me because I know that it works, but it's like.
No, it scared me the first time I started using it too. And I was like,
I've had it forever, but I'm like, I'm just going to take the LifeStraw because it's more visual.
Yeah. No, I feel like a lot of people, well, and with the Steri pen too, the Steri pen actually does a better job. But if you are like, as someone who's always like hiking for the most part, what if your batteries die?
Oh,
what
yeah.
if all your batteries die?
Yeah.
Like, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
So, but I do like it. Like if you're going somewhere where like they fill your Nalgene bottle.
Yeah.
That's the best because then you can just stick the Steri pen in and swirl it around.
I know. I have to get over this fear. Like, I just need to like.
You can do it.
I can do it. I can do it. I bought it. I bought it with my own money. I was like, I'm gonna use this. And then when I was actually leaving, I'm like, oh, I'm scared. But I know everyone loves it. Like, I know it's a great brand and everything. I've seen other people use it. So yeah, I just need to get over this fear.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, but all three of those are really great. Like, they all work. They do a really good job, and they're all really good. They're all really good companies too, which is what I like.
Yeah,
they're all actively like trying to get clean water for so many people around the world, which is spectacular because everybody deserves clean water.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was so great chatting with you, and I'm going to repost this on Facebook, and then for anyone else who's interested, I'm also going to be publishing a post with Rita, an interview with her, and I'll embed this video in there and share it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Jessie.
Yeah, and remember, just remind everyone where to check you out before we sign off.
Oh, my blog is roamingnanny.com, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Roaming Nanny, and my Pinterest is at The Roaming Nanny. The Roaming Nanny was taken. What are you gonna do?
Oh, I have to say, like Twitter, I'm like Jess on a journey where everything.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So annoying. But anyway, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Bye.
Tomorrow.
Oh, thanks. I will.